In 2011, frustrated with the state of our campaign finance system and the corruption that stemmed from it, Cenk Uygur announced the creation of the organization that has brought us all here today. After intensive research about how this issue could be resolved once and for all, speaking with experts and scholars, examining the history of reform movements in the past, the tools provided us, and the most effective strategies used to achieve similarly momentous and important reforms, Cenk laid out the effective strategy that we advocate. I think I can confidently say that we are all appreciative of his tenacity and his resolve, and for ultimately bringing us all into this fight. Without further ado, let's give a warm Wolfpack howl to our founder, Cenk Uygur.
All right, thank you guys, thank you. It's so great to be in a room filled with wonderful patriots. And I'm going to expand upon that in a second. They warned me that we got dinner coming up, so I got to make it quick. And I really believe I'm going to. Yeah. Yeah, no. You got to know your strengths and you got to know your weaknesses. So I saw the other day on TV, you guys might have seen this, we covered on the Young Turks, Rudy Giuliani on cable news screaming, he might have actually said this to Politico, saying, "I'm going to be the hero." Okay, what an insane thing to say, right? And what I'm here to tell you is, no, you're going to be the hero, okay? And it's enormously true, and it's going to happen because of who you are, and it's going to happen because of the tide of history. So both are relevant here. So in terms of who you are, in a moment, well, let me set it up this way. I've now know a decent number of people in Congress. I know a very decent number of people running for president. I know a very decent number of reporters. And so it is, I think, fair to say, an informed opinion that, unfortunately, not very many people have thought through this issue at a national level. And that is dispiriting, given that if you ask them, is this the number one issue, almost everyone would agree that it is. And certainly, I happen to be a progressive. Wolfpack is nonpartisan. But among progressive circles, they would almost all say it's the number one issue, even if for the folks who believe the climate crisis is going to destroy our planet, they also agree, yes, that's true, but we can't solve it until we get the money out of politics. And obviously our conservative friends would have other proposals for campaign finance reform, but they certainly have their issues with the system. The most persuasive argument I've ever made to Republicans, and you should keep this in mind, is we're here to help you because we're going to get George Soros's money out of politics. And usually they'll say, really? Right? Say, absolutely, okay? And union money out as well. And so we're going to have a free and fair elections. We're going to have a democracy. But so for progressives, you don't have to convince them about money out of politics. That's a given. Lately, Elizabeth Warren actually has been making a terrific case. And I'm very heartened. So good signs, bad signs. This is a very good sign because she's saying several things. One, she is connecting the money to the votes for the first time in my lifetime. So one person did that on cable news once, Rick Sanchez. He was fired within, I think, about a month. They say on other grounds, maybe. And in terms of politicians, even if they believe that at the national level, I have to be honest with you, they haven't had the courage to say it. Because what you guys don't see, and now I see a lot better than I did before, is that there is overwhelming gaslighting that happens once you arrive in Washington. And what they say is not, hey, we'll give you money, we'll give you a nice watch. No, of course not, right? It's far, far more subtle and more effective than that. So they go through different layers, but the last layer of the gaslighting is, are you really going to do this to your colleagues? I mean, don't you know Bob and Sally and Susie? They got to keep their seats. And when you say things like that, it hurts their chance of keeping the seats. And on top of that, I mean, you're saying that they're voting based on the money. That's deeply offensive. Are you really going to say that to Bob's face? Bob's so nice. Don't you think Bob is nice? Why are you being so mean? Now, it sounds funny to us, but it really, really works. And it works more with liberals because they think they're nice guys, and they are. I think they are, right? And so when you tell a liberal, don't be mean to someone, they go, okay, you're right, I don't want to be mean, right? And so we have to find a way to get past this. And so the fact that Elizabeth Warren is saying no, two examples she uses frequently, but you could use different examples depending where you are on the political spectrum. But on the climate issue, she says the issue isn't that we don't have enough agreement. I would go further. I love quoting polls on it. 74% of Americans believe that climate change is real. By the way, as a progressive, I love that conversation, right? Is gravity real? 74% say it is. Okay, I wouldn't want to be in the other 26%. Okay, but it's okay. We won. 3/4 of the country says it's real and it's man-made. Okay, except we didn't win. We didn't win a goddamn thing, right? We haven't passed any laws at all. So why didn't we pass them? Because the politicians at the national level are corrupt. So it's easy for me because I don't know Bob. I don't particularly like Bob, right? And so I can tell you with no problem at all, yeah, he's voting with ExxonMobil and Koch Industries. And but for people in power, that is really hard. So for Elizabeth Warren to have broken those chains and say, yes, it's because of the fossil fuel money. We won already, except we can't win because of fossil fuel money. Now, our conservative friends are going to disagree with this example, but she also talks about it in the context of the NRA. And she says, and she's right, 97% of Americans want federal background checks. What do you need, 98%? 99% in a democracy, right? Now, this is not an extreme gun control bill. I as a progressive, I agree with Beto, but it ain't anywhere near Beto, right? It's miles away from Beto. That's why 97% of Americans agree with it, because they don't want their kids killed, et cetera. And if they do, I want to be able to see who killed them, right? That's not too much to ask for. But we can't pass something that 97% of Americans agree with. Well, then do we have a democracy? And so now you've heard me say that probably on the Young Turks probably many times. Now we have the leading presidential candidate. She's leading in Iowa and she's leading in New Hampshire. She's in second now, talking about, yeah, it's the money. It's the money. That's why they're doing it. And by the way, if you're a conservative, I would give you the Alison Hardison challenge. So I just came up with that and I already love it. So Alison was, of course, not only the executive director of PAC, but ran for Senate as a Just Democrat in California. And she didn't just not take corporate PAC money. She didn't take any PAC money, including from the teachers union, even though she was a teacher and loved the teachers union. And even I asked her, why? and she said, when I vote with the teachers union, I don't want anyone to think I did it for the money. So my Republican colleagues, I would ask you to follow along with the Alison Hardison challenge. And when you vote against gun control, depending on the particular issue and the particular bill, and you vote with the NRA, you don't want us to think it's because you took a bribe. You want us to think, yeah, no, I deeply care about the Second Amendment, and I'm doing it out of principle. I think that's a fair thing to ask for. Unfortunately, it's taken us decades to break through to have one person say it, right? Now, to be fair to again, I'm a progressive. Everybody knows that. To be fair to Bernie Sanders, he's also deeply disturbed by the issue and from time to time talks about corruption. It's just that Warren has gotten a little bit more specific about it. And she, the other day, said a phrase, again, I have never heard in my lifetime outside of the Young Turks. She called it legalized bribery. And when I heard that, I was like, yes! So that is what it is. And so Republicans don't call it that because they're going to, even if they're great on this issue, because they're afraid of offending their colleagues, and Democrats even more so. But we're beginning to break through at the national level, and I got to get you guys more cavalry on that. If I was to do it over again, I might start Just Democrats before I start Wolfpack. Why? Wolfpack, well, I mean, it's a funny thing to say. I founded Wolfpack. I co-founded Just Democrats. I absolutely love Just Democrats with all my heart, and I think it's monumentally important. I think we've changed the dynamic of politics in this country, but respectfully, I have to say Wolfpack's more important. And the reason is this is the fix. If you don't fix the rules, you're going to continue to get the wrong results. And even if we have temporary victories, they will be washed out through the money. So, in fact, I partly founded Just Democrats because I realized I had done something wrong, and that was preventing Wolfpack from winning, okay? I had underestimated the level of corruption in the Democratic Party. And I thought that you guys working so hard and wonderfully, as I saw with my own eyes, and we got passed in 5 states, et cetera, would do the job. The constituents and the progressives and Democrats would be more open to their constituents. And unfortunately, that did not prove to be the case. So it did in the first 5 states. And again, Herculean work, wonderful work. I mean, no one thinks you could have gotten anything done. They just still don't even know that you got 5 states done, right? And when I tell them that none of you were lobbyists or politicians and worked in politics, and and you guys worked in construction and the electric company, et cetera, right? They don't believe it. They're like, yeah, oh, nice cover story, right? That's cute, right? I'm like, no, it's real. It's real. And so, but as we continue to run into I don't want to say a brick wall, but a lot of pushback. The pushback, I realized very quickly, was originating from Washington. It was actually not at the state level. The virus started in Washington. And it was very powerful people within the Democratic Party saying, no, convention equals change. We don't want change. Well, certainly it equals big change. And so their donors, in my opinion, since I'm a progressive, are generally good people. So they're not doing it for the tax cuts, because a lot of folks are actually in the Democratic Party who want to increase tax on the rich. They are, in fact, doing it because they care about the country. But a lot of them are also millionaires and billionaires. So they want, hey, I want to protect gay rights. That's wonderful. As a progressive, I love that. I want to protect civil rights. Wonderful, wonderful. That's why I say they're good people. But they don't want that much change. If you don't want to rock the boat, if it's your boat. So a convention equals real change. So I've been busy trying to convince the first progressive wing, then the rest of the Democratic Party, that you're right, a convention equals big change. What the hell do you think we want, right? And so for progressives, that's an easy question, and almost everyone is there. And Young Turks did a progressive pledge that includes a call for the politician who signs it to fight to pass an amendment on this issue, okay? And Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Bill de Blasio, Mike Gravel, at the presidential level signed it, and then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ro Khanna, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Jamie Raskin, who's also a constitutional scholar, as well as a United States representative from Maryland, PCCC, Justice Democrats. All those groups have signed on to it. That's really, really, really important. That's the progressive base saying, yes, we want an amendment, and we're going to fight for it, and it says through all paths. It doesn't say through just one path. It says through all paths, okay? by hook or by crook, we're going to get that amendment, but it's not going to be through that. It's going to be through a political process, okay? So now, that and hence, even look at this. I mean, look at all the people who signed it. Half the people who signed it are just Democrats. And so part of the reason for that was, I remember the reporters asking me in the beginning, are you guys going to have a litmus test? Reporters always think litmus tests are unbearable, right? They're the worst thing in the world. Like, do you guys have principles? Is that what you're trying to say, right? And we said, yes, we have one litmus test. And they were like, aha, right? And the litmus test was no corporate PAC money, because you're allowed to have any opinion you want, and the country varies. They don't, you guys have heard this 100 times. Montana's not the same as New York City. And so even a Justice Democrat running in Kansas or Montana is going to have a different opinion on gun control than I am, or AOC has, or Ro Khanna has. That's perfectly normal. So we don't have litmus tests on those things. But we do have a litmus test on being clean and uncorrupted. And I don't think Justice Democrats has gotten anywhere near the credit that it deserves, but all of a sudden, no corporate PAC money caught on like wildfire. And now most of the presidential candidates, or at least the leading ones, except Biden, have said no corporate PAC money, and all of a sudden, it's as if magically everyone was always for no corporate PAC money. And it's not magic. It's folks like you guys working really hard behind the scenes at the grassroots, making a giant difference. And since you're not in the club, you don't get credit for it. But I'm here to give you credit, because it was you. Okay? Thank you. So that leads me back to you guys and why I'm absolutely positive that you're going to win, and that this is arguably the most important room in the country. So, look, think about what you had to do to get here. I just told you at the national level, even the presidential candidates that are trying to out-progressive one another have barely gotten to this issue. You're so far ahead of them. And you're not a professional politician, you're not a professional lobbyist, you all have different jobs in the real world, but you knew more than they did. You knew this was the number one issue, you knew we needed an amendment, and you knew that we needed to take all past the amendment. I swear to God, having spoken to a big enough cross-section of Washington, that the people in this room, in fact, every single person in this room, knows better than 95 to 99% of the people in Washington. Isn't that amazing? It is a little damning of Washington, to say the least, but it's also a great credit to you guys. Look, this is some of the smartest people in the country, because you guys realize the number one core issue and how to solve it, without any guidance, without anybody coming in and being a mentor to you and teaching you how and going through a career path, etc. You guys all figured out. I always remember Alison's story. She's a teacher. She thinks her school is in disastrous shape. She's like, what's the real problem? She starts researching in money and politics, does more research. Well, all right, what are the different groups that are looking to solve it? Well, that's not going to work. Oh, they're asking Congress, but with a pretty please. That's not going to work, et cetera. And she found Wolfpack, because this is the one thing that's going to work. That's what all of you did, right? So I'm here to tell you, you're, I don't want to say smart. Smart is too strong, although I've already said it. Okay. I don't want to offend Bob in Washington. But far more informed than even the most progressive or people who care about this on the right wing, who are the most adamant, et cetera, and most powerful in Washington. So thank you for going through that effort and that research and getting to this room. That is amazing. Okay. Point two is maybe the most important. You care. I mean, there's no, despite the conspiracy theories, there is no Koch money, there is no Soros money here. Not a dime. Why would they give us money? So we can take away all of their influence, right? That makes no sense. And so all of you guys paid to get here. And That's amazing. That's amazing. These are all the things that people would say are not possible. Really, you're going to fill a room in the middle of Dallas, Texas, with a whole bunch of people who paid their way to come here because they're dying to fix the country, that they really care about our democracy. And they're this amazing cross-section of America. No hardened reporter, journalist, activist, politician, you name it, in Washington would believe it, and yet here you are. You didn't have to care, but you did, and that's what leads to victories. It makes you a great person, but even more importantly, it leads to victories. So look, you name any movie you've ever seen, book you've ever read about heroes who win. What Rocky? I don't know. I just saw the movie Joy. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. And it's a young woman who becomes an inventor and who starts her own business. And I could really relate to it because I've started my own business, and there's 1,000 hurdles. It's so hard. You get knocked down time and time again. And guys, I mean, for all the folks who've been here from the beginning at Wolfpack, how many times have we gotten knocked down? Jesus, right? But here you are, right back up. And so that drive, the fact that you care so much to take time out of your lives to do this, the fact that you figured out the right path, and then finally, similar to caring is, you know, the saying about it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Man, this room has got some size in the fight of the dog, right? Or the wolf in this case. So I know through experience and every story you have ever seen in your life, like the ones that I reference, will show you. And those are based on real world, and it's based on experience. It's based on reality. That size of the fight in you makes all the difference. And so look, honestly, this room is even more impressive because we got the 5 states and then we stalled because of in my opinion, Democratic leadership in Washington, sending the message out to everyone. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. No on convention, right? And a lot of people will join you when we're about to win. And now we're going to welcome them with open arms because you need that cavalry. And I'm working on that cavalry for you guys. But you were here when we were stalled. And you were here when it wasn't easy, it was tough. You were here when we were so excited about Washington. And I remember coming out of that committee hearing, and we went to go grab a bite to eat, and there was literally a double rainbow. And we took pictures of it, and we were sure that it was a symbol. Oops. Yeah, I know. Look, my mom, Turks take optimism to a whole different level. So in Turkey, everything is good. Like rain is a great blessing. And I'm like, so is sun a really bad thing? They're like, no, that's also wonderful. So sun is great, rain is great. Oh, snow's even better, right? If a bird poops on you, they're like, yes! That is such a good sign, right? So I got a little bit of that in me. I hear you, but we've gotten the bird poop, we've gotten the rainbows, we got the rain, we got all of that, and still lost. But we still got back up because of the size of the fight in this room. And when you have that, you are invincible because you cannot beat someone who keeps getting back up. So thank you. So since I've already gone way over what I was supposed to go over, what I was supposed to stick to, I'm going to end on one last thing, guys. Today, I'm more convinced than I've ever been that we're going to win because I see the path ahead, and a couple of the obstacles we've gone a long way towards clearing. And I mentioned earlier in the day that I've talked to some people at the top levels and for some of the candidates, and for the people who you would think would be experts, they really haven't thought about this issue at all. It's just in the back of their head, and they once heard, oh, didn't the original Constitutional Convention run away? I'm done with it. I'm sophisticated because I know that. And when they run into you guys, and you know more than that, yeah, some of them have the reaction of like, well, I'm offended, I'm an expert, I'm a lawyer, etc. Right? But great news is half the people I've talked to go, oh, I didn't know that. Hey, I'm going to look that up. Okay, yeah, okay. Do you have anything on that? And I also refer them to the website. Okay, and so I've seen the opposition start to wither, and it might not feel it because it's so binary. Did you get the state or did you not? Even though sometimes we'll pass in a House, we'll pass in a Senate. In different years, House, Senate, they keep going back and forth. But at the end of the day, we don't get to say state 6, etc. But it's not binary. And I can see that we are making significant progress with some of the candidates. And by the way, for all the ills of Donald Trump, and you watch the Young Turks any day to find out 1,000 of them. But what worked for him? Drain the swamp, okay? Number one reason that he won. Now, I happen to think that he didn't mean it, but what's really important is that he said it, and it worked. And no one knows better than Wolfpack volunteers. Republicans hate corruption. The Republican voters hate it. They hate it even more than Democratic voters do, okay? And so Trump partly won because he was against corruption. Now we got a couple of progressives, and all of a sudden they're in the top 3, and they're running against corruption. I'm beginning to sense a trend. And politicians, generally speaking, are not leaders, they are followers. So when they see AOC winning and all the Just Democrats winning, when they don't take corporate PAC money and they run clean and uncorrupted, and people, that resonates and people like it. When they see a Republican win running against corruption, and soon, hopefully, in my opinion, they'll see a Democrat win running on no corruption, they're going to get the memo. And I'm here to tell you, having talked to them both on air and off air, they're beginning to get it. They're like, what is that I see on the wall? It looks like the beginning of handwriting. And so I'm more convinced today than I have ever been that we're going to win. And I always, especially on tough days, to get me through, I always think of that miracle moment. Some of you have heard me say this before, with the Miracle on Ice, and in the movie version, Kurt Russell's the coach when the American hockey team beats the Russians, an improbable miracle. And instead of celebrating with everybody, he goes in the hallway and just goes like, yes, right? So I often picture that in my head when we get the 28th Amendment passed. And when we do, you're going to get to say you were in this room at this date. And that you knew before others did, and you made it happen. And it will be 100% true. And you'll get to tell your kids, and hopefully one day your grandkids, yeah, I was there. No, really? You worked on that even before everybody else caught on? I did, right? And so I swear to you, as I look at this room, without you guys having any financial incentive, it's not your career, you're not making any money. In fact, a lot of you are losing money by spending money to get here, et cetera, right? Without any of those outward incentives, the fact that you cared and you had that size of the fight in your heart and that brought you here, you deserve all the credit in the world. And when we get it done, I'm going to give it to you because you are our patriots. You love this country enough to be here to fix it and to make it better. And for not just me, but our entire audience, everybody at TYT, everybody at Wolfpack, I can't thank you enough, because as I look at this room, I see a room filled with heroes. Thank you.